Hi there, Steve Arterburn here, and I'm really glad you found me here on Going Deeper. We've been going deeper in the area of the soul. And last time we were together, I talked about finding yourself and this journey that some people are on to find themselves. I gave a few ways to find yourself. One, of course, was asking people what they think of you, and another was considering your core values. You know, I remember when I really wanted to make some changes. I made an appointment with a clinician that I valued very much and was looking forward to it. I was doing radio with Dr. Henry Cloud, and of course, a lot of people would be quite jealous to be able to spend that time with Henry. And I told Henry, I said, Henry, I'm going to see a therapist, and I really want to make some changes. Tell me something that I could say to that therapist that would kind of put the therapist on the right track with me from the beginning. It'd be like code maybe from one therapist to another. I'll tell him you're the one that said it. And so he told me. He told me, he said, why don't you do this? Why don't you tell the therapist that your buddy said, you sure have a big need to look good, to be the hero, to rescue people, to be overly generous, things like that. I said, okay, I'll do it. And boy, did I ever get some good counseling. But the thing is, I have this thing in me that wants to know about me. And I really do invite the truth about me. And I hope and pray, well, I just tell people, you might not think it's done much good, but if I hadn't done that, can you imagine what shape I would be in? I continue to go to therapy, continue to get help. But let's look at some other things that we could do to perhaps have a greater awareness of who we are. Well, to do that, you have to do something that it says in Lamentations. It says, consider the rock from which you were hewn, the quarry from which you were taken. So I do think it's important that we kind of look back if we want to consider who we are, look at our heritage, the family we came from. When you're raised by folks in a certain way, you develop an attachment style. It's just what you do. Maybe you've got this style that you're a pleaser, and you don't even you've never ordered anything right off the bat because you're always waiting for somebody else to order, so you'll know what might be an acceptable order. When people make a mess, you want to clean it up, please them. And in the process of wanting to do something good, and maybe it's even just keep the peace, you end up creating a bigger problem. You sometimes enable evil that way. But that's just one of the styles. Kind of the opposite would be that style of a controller. It's an attachment style, that you got to be in control of everything. You feel so much fear and anxiety and turmoil when you're not in control. And it's not fun to be around you if you're a controlling individual. I guarantee you that. And there's another style, a vacillator. One day this person is everything to you. The next day this person is horrible to you. You don't have anything to do with them. And people that love you and care about you, they never know who they're going to see when they come home. One day it's, oh, I love you, everything. And the next day, don't get near me, I can't stand you. And one of the ways you know one of those folks is when you meet them, you're their best friend within about an hour. Oh my gosh, I just found a new best friend. Soulmate, the whole thing. No, they don't know that. They're always jumping to that because they want to be attached to somebody. So I think it's important that we consider who we are, who we become, kind of the influence of our family. We know there's a syndrome that a child of an alcoholic develops, some pretty predictable traits. So if your parents were alcoholic, you ought to look at that. It'll help you have some insight into who you are. It doesn't mean you're exactly what they say, but there'll be some things in there. Maybe you became the hero of the family. Very typical in an alcoholic home. Maybe you became the scapegoat where you got all of the bad stuff rather than the person with the problem. Maybe you became the clown. It was your job to cheer everybody up, and you lived in denial, and everything was a joke. Or maybe you were the peacekeeper, and you just wanted everybody to be nice. So those are some things that happen in an alcoholic home. They happen in other homes too. But if we reflect on that and we understand those things, then we're going to understand ourselves better. Now, also, it's important that we realize we do have feelings, and we ought to take some time to observe those feelings. Not just say, well, this is how I feel, it must be okay. That's not true. What if you felt like a failure? Well, that's not okay, because you're not a failure. I think I've said this on Going Deeper, probably didn't see it anyway. But Winston Churchill, when he was asked, what is success? He said, my success is going from one failure to the next without a loss of enthusiasm. I would say he was pretty much a success, since it was his powerful words, his plan, and his stamina and will that kept the world from being ruled by a totalitarian government that we'd all be victim to. So, how you feel and how you feel about yourself is really important. And that's what a clinician can do to help you kind of adjust. I know people that have had a horrific past. And, maybe it was years ago they were involved in something really crummy. They keep it a secret. They don't let it out. And as a result, they never feel loved, because they're always thinking, well, if you really knew me, you wouldn't love me. And so they don't ever get to feel love. I'm telling you, God loves you. And if you're still feeling shame over something from a long time ago, then you are living a shame-based life. God doesn't want that. So becoming aware of that, now you can change that. But first you have to see it. Second, you have to open up and talk to somebody about it. But if we really want to know who we are, we can't go through life just ignoring that we have some feelings, that we have some buttons that get pushed. We have some triggers that set us off in a different direction. There's some tripwires in our life that produce feelings and words and actions. And so when I take the time to consider those things, then I'm going to know myself better. And knowing myself is knowing my soul, because all of that stuff goes together to make up my soul. Now, another big question. Who do you look up to? When I started doing ministry, I never really considered myself a minister in the beginning. And I was intimidated by big shot ministers. And it was really interesting. I was, in many ways, doing something as exciting as they were and being used by God like they were, but I didn't feel it. I didn't feel like that at all. I didn't feel like God was using me. And whether he was or not, we're all people, but I felt intimidated by the people I looked up to. Who did I look up to? I looked up to people that looked perfect to me. Now, there were a lot of these ministers that I looked up to. They weren't sharing the struggles they were going through. I don't know what they dealt with, but I so idealized them. And when I did that, of course, in comparison, I was a pretty crummy guy. So it's important that who do I look up to, and how does that make me feel when I look up to those people? Now, after decades of therapy, I can look up to somebody and not be jealous or compare myself or feel lower than them. I can just be with them. The other thing is, who are you relating to? No one? No friends? That tells you something, that you have isolated yourself for whatever reason, probably out of anxiety or fear or whatever. Or maybe you're associating with people that really have crummy character. The Bible's so clear that really bad character is going to bring a person down. you could say all you want that you're there to minister to them. Well, it's one thing to minister to people. It's another thing to hang out with them. And if you're hanging out with them, most likely you're going their way. They're not coming your way. So we have to ask ourselves, who do I relate to? And why do I relate to them? Healthy people, not healthy people? Do I let people beat me up all the time? Do I let people idealize me? I have to ask those questions if I want to get to who I really, really am. Well, next time we get together, we have to do some more of these, talking about how do we find ourselves? How do we come to know who we are in a richer, deeper way? I'm so glad you joined me. And I hope and pray that by going deeper into the soul and starting with identity, that it's going to help you be the person God called you to be and enjoy living out that calling. Steve Arterburn here. I'll see you next time here on Going Deeper.